Imagine receiving a letter that could shatter your dreams of asylum in the United States. That's exactly what a notice of intent to deny, NOID for its initials, can feel like. By the way, I'm going to be calling this a NOID going forward for its initials, NOID. Getting this letter is scary, but listen, don't panic. This isn't the end of your journey. In this video, I'll break down what a NOID really means for your asylum case. Understand that this is relevant to anyone with an asylum case pending before the asylum office, even if you've not yet received one of these letters. And trust me, you need to know this before you potentially get hit with this challenge. Your future in America may depend on how you respond. I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about the Notice of Intent to Deny from USCIS, and we're starting right now. I'm Brian Manning, and I used to be an asylum officer with the government, but now, as an asylum lawyer, well, I help immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. Let me know in the comments if you've got an asylum case pending, or maybe you're considering applying for asylum. And listen, I'd especially like to hear from you. If you've been waiting for an asylum interview with USCIS for multiple years, let me know how long. All right, we're going to cover 1, what a NOID is, 2, who receives these things, and 3, how to respond by way of a so-called rebuttal. Okay, let's start with the basics. What exactly is a NOID? Well, it's a letter from U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS, from their asylum office, indicating that they're planning to deny your application. But here's the critical part. It's not a final decision. It's more like a warning shot, giving you one last chance to convince them that you do deserve asylum. So it's a letter that basically says, we don't think that you qualify for asylum and we intend to deny you unless you can change our minds. It summarizes the testimony that you gave during your interview, and then it lists and kind of explains the reasons why, in the asylum officer's view, you're not eligible for asylum. And it says then that you have 16 days to respond in writing to try to convince them otherwise. Your submission in response, if you in fact make one, is called a rebuttal. You're trying to refute the officer's determinations, showing them why you do in fact merit asylum. Okay, so who gets a NOID? Like, under what circumstances would the asylum office send you this letter rather than just sending your case straight to immigration court with a so-called referral? Well, a NOID is issued to asylum applicants who still have valid immigration status at the time that the asylum office makes a negative decision. So after your interview, the officer does legal research, considers the evidence and everything that happened at the interview. And if they conclude that you do not qualify for asylum, then they check to see what your immigration status is at the moment that they've reached this conclusion. And if you do still have legal immigration status, then you get a NOID. Now, this could be if you're here on a tourist visa, a student visa, or a business-based visa, and you get your interview shortly after applying for asylum before your immigration status has expired. By the way, this has been happening a lot lately. We've seen a lot of people getting their asylum interview pretty much right away after applying, within even a month or two, actually. And there's a good chance that people in this position will get a NOID if they don't have success with their case, because they're likely to still have valid status when this decision is made. But there's a particular category of people who are likely to get a NOID even though they've been here quite a while once they get their asylum decision, and who long ago lost that status they came in on. I'm talking about people with temporary protected status, or TPS. So TPS is a form of protection and legal immigration status given to people from certain countries facing various forms of hardship. And we're seeing a bunch of NOIDs lately for people with TPS from Venezuela, Nicaragua, Afghanistan, and Cameroon, to name a few. Okay, here's where things get tricky: the timing for your rebuttal. I can't stress this enough. You have a very limited time to respond to a NOID. Now, officially, as I mentioned earlier, you have 16 days from the date on the letter for the asylum office to receive your rebuttal. But here's the kicker: due to mail delays, you might actually have much less time. It's not like the letter reaches you in the mail on the same day that it's created and dated. Rather, you're going to lose a few of those 16 days due to mailing. I've seen cases where applicants had fewer than 10 days from when they actually received the letter to submit their response. And that's not a lot of time to mount a solid defense of your case. By the way, if you want to maximize your chances for asylum success, then be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell notification so that you don't miss the insights that I share here on this channel. Okay, so what are you trying to achieve with your response to the NOID? How do you go about constructing an effective rebuttal? Well, think of it kind of like an appeal. Your goal is to go through the asylum officer's reasoning and refute it point by point in writing. Yes, you gotta leverage clear, persuasive writing skills to make your case. Now, gotta be honest with you. Some of these NOIDs are poorly reasoned and poorly written, which can make your job even harder. If you did not include a legal brief before your interview, well, this is your chance to do so. In that case, your rebuttal should be a full legal brief that not only addresses the asylum officer's specific reasoning, but also presents comprehensive arguments supporting your asylum eligibility. Note that you can add additional evidence at this stage. So take a good look at what you've already submitted and think about whether there's maybe anything new that you can add. In many cases, years have passed between when you submitted your application and when you had your interview, and there may be new evidence that's relevant or useful to your case. You should also supply updated country conditions information. Now, this is crucial information about the current situation in your home country that supports your claim that you would be in danger if you return. It can include things like reports from reputable sources like human rights organizations or news outlets. Now, ideally, your asylum lawyer is referencing this information in the legal brief and using it to bolster the legal analysis. Okay, how long should your NOID rebuttal be? Well, the length can vary significantly depending on your case and what exactly the NOID says. Not counting the country conditions information or any additional evidence, this filing might be just a few pages, maybe like 4 or 5, or it could actually be quite extensive. Again, I'm talking here about the substantive NOID rebuttal, where you're actually rebutting the officer's reasoning and explaining how you do meet those asylum requirements. So sometimes it's just a few pages, but sometimes more ink is required. I actually recently submitted a rebuttal that was 15 pages, single-spaced, because the asylum officer made so many errors in their analysis that it took that much space to refute their misguided reasoning. Okay, so you're gonna package all of this up. So the first thing that appears is a cover letter that you're gonna write, followed by a copy of the NOID from the asylum office, and then your actual rebuttal, which is the substantive part, and which may actually be a full legal brief if you didn't previously submit one. And then after that, you'll put the country conditions information cited in your rebuttal, and then any additional evidence. Now, all of this should be paginated with a table of contents at the front, making it easier for the asylum officer to manage it. Send this packet to the asylum office. Now, if yours is a paper case, well, you should send a physical copy by mail and also email it in PDF format. Now, if you applied for asylum online, then you can just upload the PDF to your My USCIS account. There's no need to mail a physical copy. Crucial detail, the asylum office must receive the rebuttal by the 16-day deadline. It's not sufficient to just put it in the mail by that deadline. So plan ahead, okay? So what happens after you submit your rebuttal? Well, the asylum officer who did your interview and issued the NOID will review it. Now, if they agree with your arguments, like if you convince them that they were wrong, then you'll be granted asylum. But if they don't agree, they'll check your immigration status again before proceeding with the next step. Sometimes people fall out of status between when the NOID was issued and when the final decision is made after you submit your rebuttal. If you're still in status and the officer makes a negative decision, you'll get what's called a final denial. Now, technically, there's no appeal allowed for a final denial, but you can file what's called a motion to reconsider. You must do that within 30 days of the final denial. I've got to be straight with you. These motions, the motion for reconsideration, are rarely granted, but in some cases, like where there's a clear legal error in the asylum officer's analysis, it can work. All right, if you do not have legal status at the time of the negative decision regarding your rebuttal, well, you'll be referred to immigration court. And this means that you'll be in deportation proceedings where the government is trying to deport you. But don't lose hope. You'll get another chance to explain your case and an immigration judge will decide. Listen, I can't emphasize this enough. You've got to act fast when you receive a NOID. Time is incredibly short and crafting an effective rebuttal requires a lot of work. You need to reach out to an experienced asylum lawyer right away. It takes time to review the entire file, come up with effective arguments to rebut the asylum officer's reasoning, and construct solid legal arguments around your asylum eligibility. Remember, the NOID is not the end of the road. It's a challenge, yes, but it's also an opportunity. With a well-crafted response, you may still be able to win your case, but it requires quick action, attention to detail, and a thorough understanding of asylum law. If you're facing a NOID, don't panic, but do act quickly. Get professional help if you can. Your future in the United States may depend on how well you respond to this challenge. If you're ready to take the next step and get help with your asylum case, then please call my office today. That number is 713-909-0401. And remember, we help people all over the country, so it doesn't matter where you live. Call us right now to schedule an asylum strategy session so that we can help you to secure your future in America through asylum. Again, I'm Brian Manning, and it's truly an honor to serve you in your asylum journey.